Well, welcome to Confederation Field. It is the SportsCanada.TV game of the week as we kick off the regular season here in BC high school football. It's Warren Andrews along with Gord Randall, pleased to bring you the action in the 33rd annual Buchanan Bowl, featuring the Carson Graham Eagles in the white jerseys with the white helmet and the red numbers. They will take on the Handsworth Royals in the royal blue, along with the yellow helmets and the white lettering. And Gord, we are looking at, doesn't matter what the records are of these teams, it's always a great game here on North Vancouver.
No, always one of the most exciting atmospheres in BC high school football up here. I was at this game last year doing this broadcast as well, and the students all show up from both teams, and it doesn't matter which school it's at. You got blue versus red. It's everything designed for a fantastic rivalry over here on the North Shore.
Well, first-year coach Darren Benning will be looking to snap the Handsworth Royals' two-game losing streak in this Buchanan Bowl and looking to turn around a season where they went 1-8 last year against these Carson Graham Eagles and their air raid offense. Yeah,
in the grander scheme of things, it's been a struggle for a few years for Handsworth. As a once very proud program, they've been bumped up consistently to the AAA level and have struggled to compete in the AAA Western Conference, which is an absolute gauntlet of teams. So need some momentum at some point here for Blue.
Star receiver James Curley with a line drive kick and a fumble, and right off the hop is number 80, Ethan McCullough-Rabner. Bobbled the ball, but thankfully recovered it, and so it will be the Handsworth Royals, and they will scrimmage from their own 28-yard line, it looks like.
And you know, Warren, one thing I'm looking for early in this game, in last year's game, Handsworth, it was again here at Carson Graham, so Handsworth, the road team, made a number of pretty crucial mistakes early on in that game to really hand momentum to Carson before they settled in and started battling. And they cannot afford to get out to a start like that again this year, so it'll be interesting to see how they come out of the gates here.
Well, start running back Robert Lutman, number 6, went off last year, at least early on, for about 80 yards, and they'll look to him again to be one of the key cogs of the offense. On the jet sweep, no gain is number 11, Michael Donato, is stopped, and that might be a bit of a loss.
And one of the guys you see involved in that, big number 99, Logan Widener. He is a specimen, 6'5", 255 pounds. He is a national level rugby player and splits time between the sports. But I know Coach Brian Brady at Carson very, very high on this guy, likely a next level guy if he decides he wants to be a football player.
We'll see two very different offenses in this game. We'll get to Carson Graham in a moment. That'll bring up second down. Once again, high school football, 4 downs as there's the handoff. Plowing ahead, wheeling his way up for about 5 yards on a nice rush.
And it's good to see Handsworth dedicating themselves to establishing the run here early on. That's usually not enough to win games on its own, but a very crucial part of the American game. You've got to be able to establish something on the ground. And even Carson Graham, who considers themselves a, quote, air raid offense, you will see them establish the ground game early on here too.
Quarterback is Brett Birch Jones, who was the backup last year. He's in the gun. Flanked by Lutman, one receiver to the near hash. He'll roll out right instead, go to the air. He's got a nice gun. He's got a wide open target. And Michael Donato finally dragged out of bounds, but not before an absolute huge game. However, there is a flag on the field.
I have a feeling this is coming back. That's in the neighborhood. They look like they're indicating an illegal cut block or a chop block on the offense here. And there are some pretty tight restrictions on where you can use that kind of block in high school football, considered to be a potentially very dangerous play. So they don't miss a lot of those. And that is what they're going to call there. What you saw from Handsworth there, it's too bad. I like the scheme. A lot of high school coaches like it. It's a rollout to the right, cuts the field in half for the quarterback, makes it an easier read for him to see his receivers, and puts the secondary in chase mode when you're working just half the field.
Absolutely gutting play there. Over 40 yards wiped out. And he was wide open on the play, Michael Donato. So that will bring up, once again, third and basically half the football field to get the first down.
Yeah, they'll need to get almost to Burnaby to get this first down.
And watch over that traffic. It's pretty hard.
Yeah, as per usual, coming up the cut this morning.
Third and long now is they'll scrimmage from about the 25 and pressure. Scrambling, Brett Birch-Jones now looks long again, throws it up and off of the fingertips of the intended target. But you like to see him at least trying to stretch the field a little bit there, Gord.
Yeah, he got flushed out of the pocket there. I saw number 33, Trent Skill, in the backfield for the Eagles. And, comfortable thrower. Didn't even really set his feet there, and just an effortless 40-yard pass there. So something to keep an eye on. That's a pretty decent arm for this level.
Robert Lutman showing some versatility. He has moved up from the backfield and got wouldn't say open. It was good defensive coverage there. Not much room to work with, as that'll bring up fourth down now for the Handsworth Royals, and they'll punt from deep inside their zone, just outside the goal line. And a high loping kick will come down to the 45-yard line, and that one fielded by Kevin Pashandi, one of the star receivers, and big tackle there will draw a cheer from the Royals faithful in attendance.
And we're starting to see some hard-nosed football here early on, a couple car wrecks on that particular kick play. And, as we alluded to off the top of the broadcast, these are two teams that don't have a lot of love lost for one another, so it'll be interesting to see if it remains just physical or if it devolves into being chippy this afternoon.
That'll be our first look at John Burleson, the quarterback coach's offense, the air raid offense, former Egyptian Federation of American Football Coach of the Year. Won a championship with the Cairo Hellhounds. Working to Curley, however, a quick little run up the middle and nothing doing, at least early on there, on Trent Skill's attempt.
And Curley's a kid that the Eagles coaching staff was really high on last year as well due to some injuries. He actually got some varsity time as a grade 10 quarterback last year, and has proven very adept at running this particular air raid style. Watch for number 99. He's one of my guys to watch today. He just checked into the game. Logan Widener lined up at a wing spot on the right side right now.
One receiver near side. Quarterback action, and Curley, nice job to avoid the first tackle, maybe a hard yard or two on that run.
Yeah, pressure flushed him out of the pocket. Handsworth getting after him here early, and it sets up a 3rd and long for the Eagles.
So this Handsworth defense coming to play, and a lot of pride on the line. A lot of these kids, their parents played at these programs, and they want to make mom and dad proud.
Yeah, and what'll be key is, we can see the difference in the number of bodies on the sideline. It'll be key to see if Handsworth can hold up over the course of the afternoon, or if the Eagles' depth really wears them down.
Play blown dead before it went out, and quarterback in the exhibition season was Lucas Granger, number 3. We'll see if he gets some time under center, but right now they're going with James Curley, who, from what I understand, was actually injured last year and missed the majority of the year. I think week 2 he went out. But a very versatile receiver and quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Part of a very strong JV Eagles squad, not last fall, but the year before. Went all the way to provincial championship that year, and they're hoping they can build on that at the varsity level. Curley
in the gun, handoff to Skill, and he is mobbed back at the point of attack. If you like defense, you're loving this.
Yeah, that's just one of those calls on 3rd and long where you're just trying to get some yardage back, and you've turned it into the field position game. You're behind the sticks, at more than 10 yards to go, so you're just seeing if you can get a chunk. But I haven't seen any subs on the offensive side of the ball, so with the Eagles on the plus side of midfield, it looks like they're going to keep the offense out here on 4th and 13.
Last week in the win for Carson Graham, Skill went 5 for 82 yards, pair of touchdowns. Curley on the pitch back to Skill. However, a flag was thrown right away. In fact, there's lots of laundry on the field.
Yeah, that looks like it's going to be a hold at the point of attack there. Maybe a couple of them. They only are going to call one, of course. But really interesting call there on 4th and long yards. They went with the old school option off to the left side there. And in fact, had it not been called back, it wasn't going anywhere as Curley's pitch went awry. And he threw his hands up right away.
A tenuous start for two programs that put up almost 70 points between the two of them last week, and a pair of exhibition wins, but that's the exhibition season. As you know from your years of coaching, exhibition and the real deal are definitely different things.
Very much so, and with all the excitement in the I was going to say in the stadium today, but at the field today, it might be a bit of a feeling out period as these teams attempt to control their nerves.
So it looks like Handsworth will take over at their own 40. Pressure now, wide open man, nice fingertip grab, but then the turf kind of rocked it free as they were looking for number 80, Ethan McCullough-Rabiner, the tight end.
Those are the types of plays that I like to use to attack a defense on first down as well. You attack them, show stuff deep, and then you dump off underneath and get a few yards. Unfortunately, he couldn't hang on. Just a little bit wide on the pass from Brett Birch-Jones there.
0 for 2 to start this game from his own 40. He'll head in the gun, flanked by number 31 this time on the pitch. 31, Seb Horek. He'll pick up 2, maybe 3 on the play.
Little bunch formation there, and I know, Warren, you spend most of your time doing Canadian ball, so these static formations are a little different for you to be looking at, but 3 receivers lined up just outside of the offensive line on the right side there, just trying to outflank the defense so you can get out to the edge on that toss, but a really good job setting the edge on that Carson Graham defense there to force it back inside. War
of attrition as the lineup 3 to the near hash. Carson Graham showing pressure. Good job by the O-line, buys a bit of time. Brett Birch-Jones, wide open receiver, it's Lutman. And that's a first down and some change.
Tough to see some of the numbers from here. I think that's actually number 8, not number 6, Justin Lefebvre coming down with it. And great throw by Birch-Jones with skill 33. Getting in his face, didn't quite win the edge, and Birch-Jones just settled and delivered a strike downfield. And like I said earlier, Warren, really impressed with this kid's arm when he's on the move.
Yeah, 38 yards. I was watching Huddle and watching the way that Justin Lefebvre can snare in those balls as Brett Birch-Jones hand off and plows ahead. That might be enough for a first down. Kind of hard to see through the excited crowd in attendance.
Yeah, that's our Robert Lutman getting involved here. Big physical back, and if he can get the blocking in front of him, you can see that Carson Graham front certainly physically bigger than the Handsworth front. So they'll have to make up some size with tenacity on that Handsworth front, but that was a good little run there for a pickup of, looks like about 15.
I think they said, yeah. 2 carries, 20 yards, not a bad average. And once again, hey, if it's ain't broke, don't fix it. Lutman again, powerful back as he wasn't actually brought down. His progress was just halted.
Yeah, same toss play going the other way. That's one of the favorites for this Handsworth offense to try and get things going on the ground. And they really like that bunch formation. That bunch formation can be very tricky to cover as well in the passing game. So keep an eye on how they make use of that as this afternoon progresses.
Handsworth Royals, like Rambo, trying to draw first blood here, threatening in the red zone. The quarterback, Brett Birch-Jones, in the gun. Lutman beside him. One receiver to the far side. Draw play instead, Lutman, but that one read like yesterday's newspaper by the Carson Graham Eagles.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm a fan of that particular play call there. You're in deep against the goal line. I think what they were anticipating was some pressure from the defense, which tends to pick up the closer you get to their own goal line, and to see if they can surprise them. But what's key for those draw plays is to try and control that pressure so it comes outside and creates a seam up the middle, and it just wasn't there. Just a wall of white defenders coming in.
2 steps forward, 1 back, 3rd down now for the Handsworth Royals. Brett Birch-Jones now going right side, and it's intercepted by the Carson Graham Eagles.
Yeah, that'll be a touchback, and unfortunate turn of events for Handsworth. A lot of promising momentum for them there, but that being said, as disappointing as that is, they're going to take over deep in Carson Graham territory.
And a massive thank you to our MVP, Larry, for getting the lift going here. Now we got a much better vantage point for Jillian on camera. Great to have you along. SportsCanada.TV game of the week, kicking off the regular season. The ball firmly planted at the 20-yard line for the Carson Graham Eagles, who go to work. James Curley remains under center. Or pardon me, it's Lucas Granger now rolling out, holding, and picks up a couple of yards, maybe about 4 or 5 on the play.
And so one of the things that has changed in high school football this year is the way that plays are timed out and the play clock works. They're gone to an NFL-style 40-second clock. It starts as soon as the previous play ends. So it enables up-tempo teams to pick up the tempo, and you can see they're going quick here.
Handoff now slicing his way up the middle on a nice run there for Trent Skill. Should be enough for the first down.
Here we go, no huddle. Now, this is what Carson Graham wants to do on offense. Once they start rolling, they want to stay out of the huddle and just stay on top of you.
Once again, Trent Skill, oh my goodness, like a hot knife through butter. That might be enough for another first down.
Love the play there. Call the same play. Just keep running it until they stop it.
With a smaller roster with the Handsworth Royals, boy, you want to try to gas them a bit if you're the coach, don't you?
Yeah, tempo is a very big potential weapon for the Eagles in this one.
Granger now rolling out left, looking, throwing, completion. That one caught by Jake Oseen, and he's still on his feet all the way down to the 20-yard line. Gain of 32 on the play.
And again, you're seeing what tempo does is the pass rush just gassed for the Royals there, and that allowed Curley to have all kinds of time to wait for his guy to come open, or I should say, sorry, Lucas Granger, as Curley's at receiver now.
Oseen, a talented soccer player, actually played with the Whitecaps Youth Academy growing up. There's the pitch back, and that one wide. It's a live ball. Skill now will scoop it up, and he's got some speed. One man to beat, lowers the boom. Gets it inside the red zone down to about the 5-yard line, so a broken play picks up about 15 yards.
You know, to slightly misquote the great movie Mean Girls, maybe the Carson Graham Eagles need to stop trying to make option happen. They've run it twice, and they've thrown the ball away both times. They get a really lucky break there as Trent Skill. It actually looked like for a split second he stopped playing and then went, oh, hang on a second, that's a live ball. Goes and picks it up, and there's nobody for him to beat for 10 yards downfield once he picks it up. So a fortunate break for the Carson Graham Eagles, and if they want to keep running option, both quarterbacks have run it and flipped it up way offline so far, so they may need to clean that up.
They may be trying to stop fetch from happening, but thankfully it was fetched. It wasn't and brought all the way down 15 yards. The player lying down on the turf, and it was actually the player that had to stop Skill from getting into the end zone. And
I'm glad that you and I are of similar enough vintage that we can make the same pop culture references here.
Oh, my goodness. 0-0-0. Go ahead.
I want to double back to, you were talking about our MVP, Larry. For those of you who are high school football fans, you will, of course, recognize the name Larry Donahoe, longtime coach here at Carson Graham. He's still helping out with the program and essentially their game day event manager and does just about everything around here. So a big shout out to Larry, a guy who's been around BC high school football for, well, since before I was born. So a long, long time.
Yeah, you got to love those guys that, have dedicated themselves. Larry Donahue, 41 years coaching JV from what I understand.
And JV's that developmental level. You're more of a teacher than a scheme X's and O's type coach at that level. And, it takes a special individual to stay at that level coaching for that many years.
First and goal, Carson Graham Eagles. Granger in the gun. They'll go to the other running back this time. And number 25, Darius Andrade makes his way ahead. Pickup of 1, maybe 2 on the play.
And that's a thunder and lightning type combo. Darius Andrade was a pretty prominent actor in their offense last season as well. Skill provides the thunder, and Andrade's more of a slasher that they usually run towards the edge more.
Second and goal option. Granger to Andrade. Touchdown, Carson Graham Eagles.
They made option happen. It's there. A tough play to defend. There's a reason why it's been running in the American game for eons. The end plays the quarterback as he's supposed to, but the second level defense, the second wave just wasn't able to keep up with Andrade, and he just beat them to the edge essentially.
So after the Handsworth Royals were threatening before the interception in the end zone, you got to like what Carson Graham did, bringing it all the way down the field, marching meticulously until they made their way into the end zone. It's 6-0, and now it'll be Granger the hold. Kick is up. Kick is good. Conversion by Jake Oseen. So he makes the big catch to get them down the field and then comes through with the point after attempt.
Yes, and I'm interested to see if Carson continues to have personnel packages for both their quarterbacks and what the offensive staff, their long-term game plan is. If they want to, use this game to kind of find their guy for the rest of the season, or if they want to continue splitting time and letting each of these guys play to their respective strengths.
7-0 lead for the Carson Graham Eagles, who are technically the hosts here as we're at Carson Graham. However, two North Vancouver schools. Both got to feel a little bit at home here at Confederation Field.
Well, most certainly you can see the amount of blue and gold in the crowd, and having played here last year as well and playing here regularly over the course of their high school careers, I'm sure the Royals are more than comfortable enough over here about 10 minutes away from their school campus.
James Curley now with the kick from his own 40, line drive. That one takes a hop at about the 15, bobbled around before it's scooped up by Justin Lefebvre. Slips around one tackle, slips around a second, runs into a wall of white, and he's taken down at the 23.
And I'm really interested to see the counterpunch from the Handsworth Royals here. They are the underdog in this game. It hasn't been a winning program for a few seasons now, but that being said, this is one of those rivalries where even in the worst of years, as long as you beat Carson Graham, it's been a good season. So
is that Alabama Clemson? Is that how it goes?
Bama Auburn maybe.
Auburn, yeah.
Iron Bowl.
Brett Birch-Jones in the gun. There's the handoff. Robert Lutman, ooh, he's slippery. Slides around a couple of tackles. Forward momentum will bring him up for a gain of maybe 7 on the play.
Yeah, and the new defensive coordinator at Carson Graham this year, Puya Durandish, the former head coach at West Vancouver, has put a pretty stout product out there. He's got big boys on the front. So as I said, the Handsworth front's challenge on offense is going to be to make up for some size with tenacity here. Once they get through to the second level, Lutman's a guy that can really do some damage.
Second and short now for the Handsworth Royals in blue with the yellow helmets. It's going against Carson Graham. As we're approaching the end of the first quarter, there's a handoff, and Lutman, he runs into the beast wearing number 64, and that's Joe McNulty, one of the captains, 6'2", 225 pounds of solid beef.
And what they do on defense with the Eagles is they're in a 34 front, and that is a front that is designed to bring lots of pressure from lots of different areas and really keep you guessing as an offense, and pressure is what they brought there, making the stop up at the line of scrimmage.
6th carry of the day for Lutman. He'll remain behind Brett Birch-Jones. This time he'll slide over to his right. 3 receivers set near side, 1 to the far side. Birch-Jones now with some pressure, low pass, and great job by number 80, Ethan McCullough-Rabner, as he fended off 2 defenders and picked up the first down.
Pretty straightforward combo concept there on the triple receiver side. You have the 2 outside receivers running verticals or in breaking routes, and then your inside receiver running just a little what we call a speedo or a speed out. And they actually ran that concept earlier on first down. Good job by McCullough-Rabner, a lot tighter coverage this time to come down with it and hang on to the ball. We saw him juggle it a little bit as he was going to the ground too.
Birch-Jones now 2 for 5 with the interception here on what's turned out to be a beautiful sunny day in North Vancouver.
Quads.
Rolling out now to the right, feels the pressure, slides his way to the left side now, lets it fly downfield, lots of coverage, and they're going to call pass interference, I think, on the play. So the Carson Graham Eagles faithful will go from cheering to sadness.
That is really unfortunate for Carson Graham because that likely was going to be an easy interception whether the defensive back took that penalty or not. And the defensive back saw the ball in the air and just decided to level the receiver. That's going to get called 100% of the time. Now, Birch-Jones, it looks like his coaching staff wants to talk to him too because he breaks one of the cardinal rules in football, which is you never throw deep back down the middle of the field when you are rolling out of the pocket.
Especially when you got 3 defenders all within sniffing distance. So that's a pickup of about 17 off the penalty. Yeah, and a big first down.
Typically not a spot foul at this level. That's typically going to be a 15-yarder, and but that's more than enough to move the chains. And it's one of the reasons why there are coaches that are willing to kind of tolerate that kind of gunslinging because, I mean, we see it even at the NFL level. A lot of those 50-50 balls end up moving down the field on a penalty.
Ball at the 49-yard line now for the Handsworth Royals as the Carson Graham Eagles show pressure, then back off. Good blocking up front. Birch Jones now wires that one in between receivers. And y'all bring up second down. Do you like the play call there, though?
I do. Unfortunately, it looks like it's going to back them up, and that's a challenge with extended plays, is that the longer the offensive line has to work for, the more likely they are to grab on, get tired, all that kind of stuff. But they are getting all they can handle from the big front three for the Eagles, which is Joe McNulty, Logan Widener, and number 55, Sean Nordland.
Ball back to the 38. By the way, the officials, referee Walter Becker in his 18th season, umpire Frank Roberto. The HL is Matt Cutney, line judge Greg Byron, the back judge Tori Davis. So veteran crew doing a big game here, the 33rd annual Buchanan Bowl on SportsCanada.TV.
Walt, the man we call Sarge, he's the head of officials for high school football in this province.
There's the pitch to Lutman. Nice spin move. Still on his feet, gliding his way through. Robert Lutman very close to a first down, which is impressive because they had, 20-some-odd yards to go.
And that's just an example, as a coach, you scheme plays that in theory should beat people, but at times, breakdowns are going to happen, and at times you just need a player to make a play. And that was a player making a play there. They were designed to try and get the edge on that toss. They didn't get it. Darius Lewis, 44, flying off the edge pretty clean there, and Lutman just flat out beats him in the backfield and turns what was a mistake for Handsworth into an advantage for them with his athleticism there.
So it looks like 54 yards on the ground for Robert Lutman in 7 carries. Not a bad first quarter for him, as we're at the start of the second quarter. And that's where you got that one difference maker. I know football is the ultimate team game, but if you have that guy that can get things going, that can be that spark everyone looks to, it can make a huge difference in a game where you really need it.
Especially when he's a physical runner. I think that guy can really make a difference on the ground because it makes such a statement to the other team and wears them down up front. The Eagles having to be in chase mode all day against a guy like Lutman, who's going to run you over as quickly as he's going to dance around you, is a challenge for them, and that's going to be the key, it looks like, in this game for them, is finding a way to keep number 6 bottled up. Because run it on the ground and then air it out deep is a pretty good combination on offense.
So the Handsworth Royals now get going from the 40-yard line of the Carson Graham Eagles. Birch Jones rolling out, sees the pressure, but a nice pass to Ethan McCullough-Rabner once again, who's been a key target for him. Second completion in 3 targets. That'll be a first down.
And Birch Jones continues to throw primarily from outside of a traditional pocket, rolling out to both sides and or extending plays and throwing out of the pocket. He looks much more comfortable throwing from that position, whether it's designed or not.
2 receptions for 14 yards so far for number 80, McCullough-Rabner. On a sunny, breezy day here, Confederation Field. Pressure now from the Carson Graham Eagles. They'll hand off, though. Robert Lutman looks so effortless when he's running head up. Almost challenges you to bring some contact as opposed to some of those smaller, elusive backs, Gord.
Yes, he does, and you like a back that isn't afraid to get his nose dirty and put his foot in the ground, get vertical up the field, whether he sees defenders there or not. It's very rare. There's enough athletes at this level. It's very rare that you're going to just be able to run around everybody. It's not Pee Wee football anymore, so you've got to be able to put your foot in the ground and get upfield, and Lutman has no hesitance to do that.
Handsworth Royals trailing 7-0 here, threatening now. Ball at the 26-yard line. Thrown up for grabs. I thought it was a nice defensive play. The officials thought otherwise, though, as Jake Oseen has seen a yellow flag thrown.
I'll be honest, I still thought it was a nice defensive play.
Well, there was some hand jostling going on both sides, but
You know, at some point you got to let guys play, though. You know, and if anything, you know, I would have thrown that maybe on the offensive guy. If anything, that felt like there was a bit of a tug there as he tried to elevate to go get that ball. But I mean, when a guy has body position, he's right on the receiver's hip, and there's a little bit of hand fighting. I'm hesitant to throw that as an official, where you know a guy's played it pretty well and maybe just grabbed a little bit.
Ball at the 11-yard line now as the Handsworth Royals trying to tie this thing up. The big center, Lucas Eisner, number 55, looking to get the ball to Brett Birch-Jones. Lutman in the backfield. Hand off to Lutman, trying to slide his way through, but a gang of white and red there to meet him at the door. If he got anything, it's maybe a yard or two.
Yeah, Handsworth trying to continue riding their horse here, see what they can get on first down. Spread the ball around pretty nice today. That last play, the penalty there was the first target on the day for 86, Jack Cameron. So that, by my count, is 3 or 4 of their receivers involved so far.
I think they're going to give him about a half a yard on the gain. I'll bring a big second down here for Coach Benning. Royals fans clad in blue in attendance urging their team on. And a bad snap. Loose ball. Scooped up by the Carson Graham Eagles off the fumble. That one recovered by number 55, Sean Nordland. And once again, the Royals get oh so close to the promised land, but they can't cross the finish line.
This is kind of gut check time early on here for the Handsworth Royals, as that's 2 pretty critical mistakes in deep where they were in the point zone and came away with nothing. And I got to stand up for the O-line union here, Warren. That was not a bad snap. It hit the quarterback right in the hands and just went right through his hands.
Warren Andrews along with Gord Randall. Great to have you along.
I'd have my membership card revoked if I didn't throw that in there. There was nothing wrong with that snap. The quarterback's just got to catch it.
SportsCanada.TV. It's the game of the week, kicking off the BC High School regular season. So glad to have you along on a beautiful day here, flanked by the North Shore Mountains, Confederation Field. Carson Graham, Granger with the pass out wide, and that one picked up by number 18, Jake O'Seens, having quite the day today with a pair of receptions.
Yeah, very involved on both sides of the ball. He was the one that got called on that pass interference penalty in his own end zone there as well. And look, Handsworth needs a stop here. It's not going to be over by any means if Carson Graham scores here, but Handsworth really could use a stop to kind of stem the momentum swing here.
Lucas Granger, 3 for 3 since coming in on the second play. Guns that one down, and that one off the hands of the intended target, Ethan Patt.
Yeah, probably a ball that should have been caught. Looked like it hit him right in the midsection there. And yeah, I've been really impressed with Granger so far. Looking very confident throwing the ball around there.
Did a nice job in JV, did Lucas Granger. And last week, 11 for 16, 157 yards, rushed in a touchdown. Over 560 yards in JV last year for Mr. Granger.
And you know, I made a talking point about James Curley earlier. I was getting the 2 quarterbacks mixed up. It's Lucas Granger, who's the grade 11 right now. He's the guy that got the time last year as the grade 10 quarterback for Carson Graham when Curley got hurt. And they really like this kid. You can see out there he's a little longer than Curley at a full 6 feet, and really slings it confidently for a younger signal caller.
Trent Skill in the backfield. 1 receiver to the far hash, 3 receivers set near side. Big draw play and a quarterback keep by Granger, and more than enough for the first down. He'll pick up 5 on the plate.
Yeah, when you are in a situation like that, it's 3rd and 2. That is just your, okay, what am I most confident with? Play it safe, nothing too fancy. Let's turn the sticks over and keep moving here.
Under 9 minutes to go here in the first half. 7-0 lead for the team in white, who have the ball, and they'll air it out. That one down deep, and James Curley looking for the flag, but as it often is, if you're looking for something, it's like trying to find where's Waldo. You won't come up with it.
Yeah, and as a coach at this level, like, you're usually on your players to stop signaling for that kind of stuff. I know at certain levels and with certain guys, as soon as you do one of these, I think the CFL has that rule, don't they?
Yeah.
As soon as you do one of these, one of the flag throwing motions, you're going to get thrown for objectionable conduct right away. And what that really is when you're that demonstrative a lot of referees will just see it like as showing them up.
It's grandstanding, and no one wants to be grandstanded. Ball at the 48-yard line inside Handsworth territory. Granger now barks out the signals, hand off to Skill, slips his way through. Oh, pardon me, that's Andrade with a beautiful run. What a great job by the offensive line, opening up that can opener and letting them slide through.
Seam right up the gut there, and that's something that both of these teams' offensive styles create the potential for. They spread out the box, they move receivers out wide, they get defenders out of the middle of the field, and despite the fact that they're both kind of pass-oriented offenses, that also gives you the opportunity to gash them up the middle as there's fewer second-level defenders in the box to limit the damage.
What a day by Andrade. As we were talking about Trent Skill, Andrade 3 carries for 29 yards and a touchdown so far.
Pretty good for a quote-unquote change of pace guy.
I don't think the Royals enjoy this change of pace as they find themselves down 7-0. Despite being in the red zone twice, they've had a fumble and they've had an interception in their 2 times. And coaches will tell you, boy, you got to control that ball. You got to control your own destiny. And so far, Carson Graham has controlled their own destiny and done a nice job on defense too.
And somebody took a penalty at the end of that play there as they've marched the ball back to just about where they started on that previous play, but it's still first down. I did not see the flag come out, but Brian Brady, the Carson Graham head coach, is having a lengthy conversation with Walt Becker on the in front of the Carson Graham bench here. That is still ongoing at this point. That's about as long as I've seen Sarge tolerate talking to somebody. So I don't know if it might have been a sideline violation or if somebody said something in the Carson Graham bench there. That's about the only thing I can think of that would create the circumstances we're seeing here, and I apologize to the folks out there for us missing exactly what happened for you.
All I need to know is it's 1st and 20 now. Carson Graham Eagles from the 39, and that one gunned out, and that one caught by OC, bashes into the defender and gets back to the original line of scrimmage.
And that's purely what we call a bubble play. When you're a pass-oriented offense, you'll call what we call a bubble play, and the quarterback just looks at the coverage shell and finds the open guy. Oseen was just jogging straight up field there into an open spot in the coverage shell for Handsworth.
Once again, say they don't wait as Andrade with the rush ahead. Didn't pick up much, though, on the play. See where they spot the ball, and they'll give them a gain of maybe 2 on the play. Bring up a big 3rd down for the Carson Graham Eagles, up by a touchdown. Granger holding, fakes the option, trying to get around the defender, but he is dragged down by Robert Lutman, the star running back, doing it on both sides of the ball.
That was extremely well defended by the Royals, as it looked like Arya Barami, number 61, and I think Sean Javadi, number 9, on the front side there, playing quarterback and pitchman, but Granger just out-athletes the defensive end there, and that's another thing that can make those option plays dangerous, as he just runs right by Barami, despite him being in really good position there.
They'll go for it, and it looks like Granger drew the offside unless one of the offensive linemen flinched, but the way Carson Graham was pointing, it looks like it might be the boys in blue that are penalized.
And that is indeed what will happen, giving away a 1st down when you are deep in your own end, and that was actually 4th down there. Giving that away,
4.
Yeah, giving that away deep in your own end is not a mistake that you're particularly happy about as a coaching staff.
Penalties have not been the Handsworth Royals' friends by any stretch, and you know the coaching staff, Darren Benning and Alex Benning, Mike Lemoyne, Sasha Bobick, Andy Holmes, Wyatt Smith won't be too happy with things they can control. Granger to the air, he's got the wide open man, driven down at about the 4-yard line, or is that a touch? No, just shy of the touchdown.
Yeah, it looks like the 1 or 2 yard line here.
Bashandy with the reception. Second and goal. Granger with Andrade. Got around the defender, slipped through him like he was covered in baby oil to the end zone. Touchdown, Carson Graham Eagles.
It's too bad number 50, Jake Waltz, had a chance at him in the backfield, and it looked like 64, John Carlos Vasquez was back there as well. And at that point in time, again, you're backed up against your own goal line. You really hope for one of your defensive linemen to be able to bring that guy down when they have the opportunity there.
Darius Andrade, 5'10", 155 pounds, one of the few grade 12s on the roster. And there's a big play by the Handsworth Royals as they'll block the point after attempt.
And who else but Robert Lutman coming right up the gut there and making the block for the Royals. And they are going to need to try and strike back pretty quickly here as this game has the potential to get away from them if they continue to make mistakes in the red zone. But the thing is, the field of play, it hasn't been that one-sided. It's just been both offenses moving the ball pretty consistently and Carson Graham finishing drives while Handsworth has not finished drives.
Coming to you from Confederation Field, the Carson Graham Eagles up 13-0 over the Handsworth Royals. I'm Warren Andrews. He is Gord Randall. He's got a number of other hats he does other than this. Head coach of Sullivan Heights football program in its second season, I believe.
That is correct, yes.
Do some work on Crown
Gridiron Nation, we're called now. We've moved over to TSN this year and rebranded the show slightly.
Congratulations, by the way, to you and Jim Mullen and the crew.
Thank you very much. Yeah, your voice for Canadian college football, whether it be actually playing here in the home and native land or Canadians playing stateside in the NCAA. We are your source for news on all of the above. And how about that Chuba Hubbard?
You're on the home of BC high school football, SportsCanada.TV. Kick fielded. Brought up about 15 yards on the return up to the 31, 32-yard line.
And the rare instance of a helmet popping off on the tackle there, that's big Logan Widener, number 99. And
you talked about his praises.
Well, I mean, that's a good example of the athleticism on that kid, too, though. He's running at listed at 255 pounds, and you can see he's every bit of that looking at him, and he's athletic enough that they have him out there on kickoff team. I mean, I played 15 years of football myself as a fairly large guy, you can probably see. Never once was I on a kickoff team, even in Pee Wee football.
Ball from the 31-yard line. Brett Birch-Jones trying to help dig his team out of a hole. And he'll look right side and out of the outstretched arms of Lefebvre. And that one will go incomplete.
More of a traditional drop back pass from the Royals there, and he had good protection and just overthrows his guy on the corner. It looked like a bit of a scissors concept with the outside receiver running a post and the inside receiver running a corner, create a cross and try and lose the coverage one way or the other.
Brett Birch-Jones 3 for 9 so far on the day.
Well, one of the things that we aren't seeing a lot of from him is everything's over the top and long. We're not seeing a lot of the safe throws that will climb up a quarterback's completion percentage. And we can argue the merits of using those, but that's one of the reasons why he's a low percentage thrower right now.
Carson Graham Eagles showed blitz. Oh, nice elusiveness from Brett Birch-Jones. Maybe coming back, though, as I think the offensive line is going to get tagged with a holding penalty. Brett Birch-Jones signaling he's ready to play here in the second half as he lowers the shoulder on a defender. I think it was number 18 for Carson Graham, Jake Oseen.
And I just looked over at the Handsworth sideline. You can see the classic coach body language from, I think that was Wyatt Smith over there. The lean over like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that's happening again. But that one was doomed from the start. Big pile created as Birch-Jones spun out to try and avoid some pretty significant heat from the CG front.
Well, it was a nice job by Carson Graham. Yeah, they showed some pressure. 2 or 3 guys loaded up in the box along with the front four.
And that's what Coach Duran just likes to do. I mentioned it earlier. You know, they've got the big horses to be able to run that 30 front, and what that allows you to do is be much more creative in your pressure packages. Slide guys around, bring pressure from different angles, all that kind of stuff. It can be a real headache to deal with for an offensive front.
Well, for Coach Brady, he's been in this situation. I believe this is his 5th Buchanan Bowl, he was telling me. So not fazed by the big crowd as there's pressure from Carson Graham again. Nice pass, though, to Robert Lutman, looking for a hole, slides around 1 tackle, slips around a second, brought down by 3 on a nice gain there. They won't get back, though, to the original line of scrimmage as it's a pickup about 7 on the play.
And if I'm not mistaken, Brian Brady, a guy who's been around North Shore football for a long time, and if I'm not mistaken, he's actually been on both sides of this rivalry, as I believe he actually coached at Handsworth for a few years before making the move across town to Carson Graham. You know, and it's quite the thriving football community, amateur football community here in the North Shore. Obviously, you've got the Gordon Sturtridge League with the kids ball leading into the high school ranks, and because of the strength of that league, the high school ranks are, I'd say per capita, this is probably one of the biggest hotbeds in the province. You've got these two schools, you've got West Vancouver Secondary, you've got Argyle Secondary playing all here on the North Shore, and so I know that at times some of the coaches up here will bemoan that it's maybe a little bit too watered down for them to be super competitive at the top level, but it's certainly a great statement for the future of the sport, looking at the way things are here in the North Shore.
There's a lot of universities and junior programs across Canada awfully thankful for this part of the world, loading up their rosters between SFU and UBC all the way down to the Rams and Huskers.
Very much so. I mean, the game program today gives you a list of alumni for both these programs playing university football, and it's about 20 names long, and that's just current university football players.
Unbelievable. So. Handsworth took the timeout. Brett Birch-Jones, and that what a high snap, and good job by Brett. Oh, I was going to say good job by Brett Birch-Jones, but couldn't quite handle it. We'll see who the officials say come up with the ball. Carson Graham signaling they've got it, and they do. Another fumble.
Okay, I'll give you that one, Warren.
That one you got to feel bad for Brett Birch-Jones because he tried his best, but that one was shot like a cannon over his head.
Yeah, and that's one where I go back to my center and go, hey, he's only 6 feet tall.
You're not hunting to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Joel Embiid.
Yeah, and honestly, what that is that's just, and this is another side effect of the 30 front. I actually quite like the 30 front if you have the big dogs to run it in the front. But another side effect is it has a nose tackle right over top of the center, and with no yard off the ball in the American game, that can make centers pretty nervous.
Deep in the red zone, Carson Graham Eagles get a gift, and it's not even Christmas as Lucas Granger now. Flanked by Trent Skill to his right side, and they'll give to Skill. Slides around one tackle, into the end zone, touchdown, Carson Graham Eagles, and that's the third rushing touchdown of the first half.
Things going from bad to worse here for the Royals, and it's been a story of self-inflicted wounds for them. A couple of snap issues, turnovers, you name it, the kinds of mistakes that you cannot afford to make as a road team coming into a big game.
Now put on your coaching hat there for a minute. I'm sure it never gets taken off there, Gord, but what do you say to your team at halftime to kind of get the morale up and get them refocused if you are the Handsworth Royals and you're down by 3 majors?
Only you can control how the only thing you can control is how the rest of this goes. You cannot control how the stuff that already went down happened. Okay, you can only control what happens next. And you still have some pride to salvage here because losing this game is going to be not good, but getting your butts handed to you in this game is going to be really embarrassing. And with all of your fans and supporters out here watching you, you're probably going to hear about that for a while. And that conversation will be a lot easier if you scratch and claw and come up short than it will be if you collapse the tent and let these guys walk all over you.
Well, the Carson Graham Eagles made that mountain a little bit higher to climb for Handsworth as they'll convert the 2-point attempt. As it was a pass from Lucas Granger to number 18, Jake Oseen, and I have loved what I have seen from Mr. Oseen in this game.
Yes, definitely one of the favored targets for Lucas Granger, quick little slot guy, and you know, that's a pretty common position to make use of in the air raid offense is the interior receivers coming out of the slot. They'll run out-breaking routes against coverage shells, or they'll come across the middle. You don't see a lot of throwing game across the middle, just in high school football in general, to be honest with you. But certainly in air raid, a lot of it's off to the periphery, and Oseen's been really effective in those little speed-out, flat-type routes.
4 receptions for 54 yards as the Royals look to answer back, and I believe that's Lefebvre brought down at the 30-yard line, and that's where the Royals will go to work.
I'm keeping a close eye on the energy level for the Handsworth Royals here because I'm sure it's not lost on the players that this has been, it hasn't necessarily been a one-sided first half in terms of the stem of play, the momentum on the field, but because of all these self-inflicted wounds, them shooting themselves in the foot, it's really gone against them quickly here.
3 times in the red zone, 1 interception, 2 fumbles.
Yeah, and that's just not an ideal way to start a game. But again, you know, back to my my fake halftime speech I gave you. You know, they can only control what happens on moving forward here. Interesting to note, by the way, they have a different center in here for this possession, as number 55 is getting a break on the sidelines. They're 62 at center now.
Yeah, Jake Castley. Brett Birch-Jones to the air, looking for the receiver, but it might have been Neil Maggot, number 4, that was the closest player to it for Carson Graham.
You know, and I think as the Handsworth coaching staff, you need to kind of revise your offensive strategy here. You can't get 21 points back all at once, and your quarterback's going to want to try and push it downfield. So I, as a play caller, I would be designing some plays where it takes some pressure off my quarterback, give him some easy checkdowns, some things to just start the momentum rolling slowly, not adding to the pressure by trying to get so much of it back at once.
4.5 minutes to go. It's Michael Donato, the intended receiver. He's been targeted twice. First one, he actually made the 40-yard reception that was wiped out by the penalty.
Unfortunate, because that gets wiped from the statistical record forevermore for him.
You got to make and there's a bad snap again. Carson Graham, oh my goodness, fumble recovery. And third bad. You know, it goes as a fumble, I think, on Brett Birch-Jones, but really it shouldn't be because that's just a bad snap.
Well, I don't even know if he ever touched that. That was unfortunate, and you know, I really feel for the Royals right now because there are very few things as demoralizing as snap issues at this level, and that's now 2 different centers that have had issues with the snaps. And I know watching the reaction from Shad Nassim there, he was pretty upset with himself and still is out there as he remains on the field for defense.
Yeah, on the sidelines, you look at the boys on the bench, and you can just see they're a little bit demoralized from their stance. And a big defensive play here could change all of that in an instant, though. And it'll be Lucas Granger, who's been masterful since coming in, and little reverse on a nice play into the end zone. Touchdown, Carson Graham Eagles. And it's only fitting that Jake Oseen will put it in.
You know, I love that play design. They've run that option look a number of times. I was kind of joking with it earlier, but they run the same shell, and this time they bring the receiver in reverse. And the Handsworth Royals, who had finally started to really adjust to that option on the front side, it hit a guy going full speed in the opposite direction on the pitch instead, and they had no answer for it. Really nice play design from the Carson Graham Eagles to build off of one of their foundational run plays.
And you love this, half the crowd in red, half in blue. They don't care what the score is. They're getting into it with each other, trying to spur on their respective teams. As it'll be Oseen with the point after attempt, and that one kicked to the North Shore Mountains and good, and it's 28-0.
Yeah, it might be a little bit half-hearted from the Handsworth supporters now, but you know, going back to the snap issue thing, that felt, I wonder, I have not watched Handsworth's previous games. I wonder if this has been something they've been struggling with throughout, but that felt like a pretty quick hook to change their center. Kind of maybe a reactionary thing to, or not noticing that the first snap, in my opinion, was actually on the quarterback. But if that's the guy that's been your starter all week and you've been working him as your guy the whole week long, to yank him that quickly due to, presumably at least, due to snap issues, it felt like a bit of a quick hook, and unfortunately it came back to bite them. You know, the first snap from Nassim looked very confident right on the mark, but that second one he popped up over the head. And again, I point out, like, having that nose tackle lined up right over top of your center can make that a nerve-wracking situation because there's no space to work with. He's got to get that ball out and get his hands up to block.
They didn't have many issues last week. It was 41, and an onside kick, just trying to rub it in. Not sure if that was far enough. He kind of reached back to get it. That could be a break for the Handsworth Royals if they don't count it as good. Good field position with 4:14 remaining here in the first half. We're looking for a spark, anything.
It's funny, they never actually did flag that. There was nobody actually bothered pulling out a penalty flag because everybody knew. But
a legal kick. Yeah, he kind of kicked it. It was almost like he was chasing the dog there.
Hey, 4:14 left in the first half. That was the Eagles going for the throat, and they just missed it. I mean, the play was there, and the ball just didn't quite go far enough for them. So Handsworth catches a break finally, and you can see 55, Lucas Eisner, back in there at center for them.
Michael Donato and Lefebvre here to the near side at receiver. Nice snap there, and Robert Lutman now barrels ahead. He'll pick up 15 easily on the play. And that will be tied for his second longest run here in this first half. He's had 2 runs of 15 and one of 22. So he's been trying his part to keep his team in this game.
For sure he has. They need to be able to add that second dimension to the attack here. The ground game hasn't been an issue, which has been good to see for an undersized offensive line compared to their opposition. But the air attack just hasn't quite gotten going for a multitude of reasons here. And as a coach too, when you run primarily out of the shotgun, you get into snap issues. This is one of those situations where you sit there as a coach and go, why am I so dumb? Like, why don't we just go under center? Like, why did I think this was a good idea?
If you're just joining us, it's a 28-0 lead, 4 minutes, 7 seconds to go in the first half. 2 touchdowns, Darius Andrade. 1 touchdown by Trent Skill and 1 touchdown by Jake Oseen, and that's where we stand right now. There was 1 point after attempt blocked. However, they did get a 2-point conversion to even things out. Handsworth Royals now go back to their main man. Robert Lutman glides his way ahead, stiff arm, taken down. That I think will be some face mask or helmet contact there. And Robert Lutman bruising back. Picked up 5, and we'll see if there's extra yards tacked onto that.
And they're still hitting out there. I think where that flag came out, I thought it might actually have been a blocking infraction just in front of Lutman there, based on where it was thrown. We'll see what the signal is here.
And the referees were talking to me before the game saying, make sure you understand what our signals are.
And holding is what it is. Believe me, I see enough of them. Should have just told Sarge that I was your color guy. He'd go, oh, he'll be fine.
Oh, I did tell him.
Oh, did he?
I did tell him. The 5-yard gain wiped out.
Unfortunate for Handsworth, but they just got to keep at it here. A score before the half would really be big for them going into the figurative locker room at halftime.
Pressure shown now by the Carson Graham Eagles. Brett Birch-Jones, blindside pressure, throws it ahead, and that one caught by Robert Lutman. Shirks off 1 tackle, moves his way ahead, pickup of about 11 on the play, but not enough for a first down after the penalty.
Really liked what I saw from Birch-Jones on that particular play. He felt the pressure from the chase defender behind him and used his check down, just kind of short-armed it to his check down to make sure that the defender didn't get his hand on the ball as he released. And, you know, Handsworth gets a chunk back, and now it's back to a pretty manageable 2nd and 7 situation.
That's got to feel good for Brett Birch-Jones, too. That's his first completion in his last 4 attempts. His 2 out of those 3 were the bad snaps that resolved in fumble recoveries for the Carson Graham Eagles.
And he brought down another high snap on that last one, too.
He's getting good at roping him. Robert Lutman again. Robert Lutman plowing ahead. I think he's got enough for a first down.
Certainly looks like it from this vantage point, as with 3:15 left, Handsworth looks like they are in business here at the Carson Graham 25.
That will be the 11th carry for Robert Lutman, at least ones that haven't been negated by penalties. And it is the first down, ball at the 25-yard line. And if you're the Handsworth Royals, I think you need this touchdown to feel good going into half.
Yeah, you do, because now you're deep enough, too, that if you don't come out of this with points, maybe not necessarily a touchdown, but if you don't come out of this with points, it'll feel like another failure for you on offense.
Once again, high snap, pressure rolling. Nice job. Brett Birch-Jones eludes 2 defenders, launches it up for Lefebvre, and that one swatted away by Kevin Pashandy.
Really good defense there in the secondary. You know, again, like this Birch-Jones kid, has been really impressed with him. Maybe deserves better in this game thus far, at least in terms of his ability to be elusive in the backfield and manage pressure. There was guys coming from both edges of the front there, and Birch-Jones dropped back and with a quick spin lost both of them in order to create time for himself. Unfortunately for Handsworth, like this theme of him having to create time for himself is coming up again and again here, and they're going to need to find a way to stem this rush up front.
Ask Mike Riley about that with the BC Lions this year. Is Brett Birch-Jones 16 of 24 last week for 230 yards. Hand off, and they'll go to a different runner this time. Looks like Michael Donato. Oh, no, pardon me. Plowing ahead, that is just shy of the first down. It's number 31, and that would be Seb Horak with the carry. Second carry of the day.
I talked about body language earlier. There's some guys battling and trying to will Handsworth back into the game here. That extra effort from Horak to gain an extra 2 or 3 yards. You know, those kinds of extra effort plays are what you want to see when you're down in an important game like this.
Just over 2 minutes remaining here until halftime. Gord Randall pulls a Tony Romo, but they decided to trick you on that. Horak wrangled up after a gain of maybe 2 on the play.
And that's a tendency to keep an eye on moving forward. Every time they've lined up in that bunch formation, they've gone to run the toss towards that bunch, exactly as they did there. And if I've picked up on that, then I would be pretty confident in saying that Carson Graham's defense has picked up on that as well.
Actually said he got enough for the first down, so the Handsworth Royals will keep marching as the clock continues to tick. They're down 4 majors. It is 28-0 here in the 33rd annual Buchanan Bowl. Warren Andrews along with Gord Randall. Thank you for being with us on SportsCanada.TV, the BC High School Football Game of the Week. What better way to kick off than this rivalry from North Vancouver. Brett Birch-Jones pressured, driven down on a massive loss. That one a loss of about 14, maybe 15 on the play.
And these kinds of negative plays just keep coming up again and again for the Handsworth Royals, and it's unfortunate because they've been good on offense this afternoon, but you have to be really, really good to be able to make up for constant negative plays. If you're taking a play to go backwards, that just kills you. And now it's, you know, second and almost goal from the 30-yard line. That's tough.
It's becoming problematic. 4 times in the red zone, essentially, and 4 times you're driven away. And it's been the little things as they talk about, the attentions to detail now with bad snaps, or maybe the quarterback not focusing when the snap comes, and everyone's got to work together.
The unfortunate thing for the Royals now, too, is the clock ticks down to just over a minute left in the half. Is with the amount of yardage you need, the amount of plays you're going to need to get there, and the amount of time left on the clock, that's pretty much taken the run game out of it.
Well, they may look to Justin Lefebvre, number 8, had 108 yards on 5 receptions and a touchdown last week, and they have gone airborne to him a few times, just have not been successful. He's been targeted twice, 1 reception for 38 yards. They've got Lutman, though, in the backfield, too. He'll stick around to block as that one long. Donato hauled down, and the officials keep the laundry in the pocket for a moment, and then a late flag there, and you have to wonder if that was crowd-induced.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that took so long to come out. That being said, they appear to be talking to the
I thought that was a blatant pass interference because he wrangled him down around the feet.
Yeah, I agree, and it may just have been one of those things where the official fumbled and trying to get his flag out of the pocket. And they're actually waving the flag off here, so.
Oh, they are, because I was going to say, otherwise, you know, I understand that, because if you're not Clint Eastwood in one of his old movies, you can't quickly draw that out.
Got to be sometimes on the 6-shooter. Got to be on the 6-shooter there.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, when that flag came out, I'm kind of like, oh, like, you just got to be decisive one way or the other, right?
Exactly. And stick to your guns on the Western theme. Is 3rd and long now. And in fact, if they can get the first down, they're within spitting distance of the goal line. Is it Robert Lutman time here? A little draw play, open up the hole up the middle, or do you go deep with 3 receivers near side? It looks like Brett Birch-Jones rolling out, trying to elude the pressure. The big man will bump him, and that one intercepted. What an acrobatic catch by O'Seen. And right now, he's been my player of the game, and Brett Birch-Jones hurt by big number 55, Shawn Nordlund.
And that was one heck of an athletic catch by O'Seen as he elevated just inside the sidelines and tapped his one toe down just inside of it to secure the catch. Really fantastic play on the interception there. And as for Birch-Jones, unfortunately, like anytime Carson Graham's brought heat in this game, And that's when I talked about the run game being out of it for Handsworth. That's what the defense can do, is they can just pin their ears back. And anytime they brought pressure, it's gotten home or at least disrupted the play in the backfield. And, Birch Jones, he's starting to get up slower and slower every time he takes one of these big hits too. So Handsworth's got to try and find anything they can to protect their quarterback here.
Northern with a nice job, recovered the fumble earlier that put Carson Graham in great position, put pressure on the quarterback there. Screen pass across, nowhere to go though, but it doesn't matter. He slides his way through. Number 2 for Carson Graham, Kevin Pashanti, and he tries to pump up the crowd, and he did a great job there as they will march it all the way up from the 12-yard line and a gain of about 32 on the play.
It's interesting, Pashanti looked like a victim of not a great throw there by Lucas Granger as he pulled him back into the backfield and high with the throw. The screen looked like it set up okay initially, but because of the throw, it brought him right back into pressure. Didn't matter. He danced around 3 guys at the line of scrimmage there, then went right up the sideline. You talk about extra effort plays. How about that effort by Pashanti to make sure that as he was getting tackled, he tapped the ball out of bounds to stop the clock? I love seeing little extra effort and football IQ plays like that.
Lucas Granger, 7 of 9, including the 2-point conversion. He's got completions of 32 and now 31 yards, and more than anything, I think he's managed the game very, very well. Good stuff for a grade 11 student.
Well, and as a quarterback, you are giving your receiver a little extra pat on the helmet there, as you had to throw the ball 10 yards, and he did all the rest of the work.
Wind gusting up from the far side, and I don't think the Carson Graham Eagles are thinking kick anytime soon. They've got 33 seconds to go. They've been successful through the air. They've got a pair of running backs that seem to be firing on all cylinders, and so far the Eagles have been soaring here at Confederation Field.
I don't recall them having taken a timeout yet, which means they have at least a couple of those in their pocket.
That was their first one there as they took a short break. Granger now, He's got the man open, he's got the reception, and he's got a touchdown! Carson Graham Eagles, Kevin Pashanti all the way down for 40 or 54 yards.
As a Handsworth fan in front of us angrily throws a water cooler bottle, and that's just a backbreaker for the Royals. We talked about how they had to get points out of their drive. They turn it over. Not only do they not get points, but they turn it over and give up another 7 going the other way. And this has been a disaster of an afternoon for the Handsworth Royals thus far, unfortunately.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but Carson Graham just moved up to AAA fairly recently, as I think they were the AA champs, back in 2015, beating Abbey.
That is correct, and Handsworth had been back and forth between AA and AAA for a while as well. 2 schools that fell right around the cutoff for a while, but now they've made the jump up and appear to be set to remain there for the foreseeable future. So
that's a tough conference, is it not?
A very tough conference. If you look at the membership in that conference, you've got New Westminster, provincial champions 2 years ago. You got Mount Doug, the provincial champions last year. You've got Vancouver College, the #1 ranked team in the province right now. You've got Notre Dame, the provincial champions 3 years ago. So,
that's a who's who of high school football in BC, really.
It really is. I mean, the only other team that in recent years has belonged in that conversation has been Terry Fox, and then maybe perhaps Lord Tweedsmuir out of the Eastern Conference. But the upper echelon of BC high school football in this province has existed in that Western Conference for the last number of years.
This is the SEC conference of the BC high school football, and makes it tough for programs like Carson Graham and
and that's a really good way of putting it, because Terry Fox and Lord Tweedsmuir at the top half of that Eastern Conference are elite programs as well, and that conference be more like the ACC, where you have a couple elite programs, but the depth just isn't quite there.
Lutman from the 20, Lefebvre slips around a couple of tackles. Justin Lefebvre wants to get another touchdown, get his Royals on the board. What a great return from his own 20. Picks up almost 40 yards.
And, some of the players for the Handsworth Royals, some of their big players are still trying to will their guys back into this. But again, at the very least, still playing for pride at this point in time. And, Justin Lefebvre, a senior guy, this is his last Buchanan Bowl. I'm sure he wants to make sure that he leaves a stamp on this game, whether the scoreboard ends up in their favor or not.
Well, they really are hard done by to get this score because honestly, they probably should have converted at least 2 had it not been for the bad snaps right there. They were oh so close, and sometimes the scoreboard does not tell the whole story, Mr. Randall.
And it's tough to predict trickle-down effects. Like if they don't throw an interception and get some points their first possession, how does the rest of the first half go for them with that little extra added momentum?
And I think after the hit Brett Birch-Jones took last time, he saw big 65 Arvin Hosseini, 6'4", 215, rumbling down towards him, and he decided enough's enough. Enjoy the turf, Mr. Football.
Yeah, and Birch-Jones running for his life is something that's going to have to change for the Handsworth Royals if they're going to turn this around. It's been quite a lot of pressure established by the Carson Graham Eagles, and at times it's been with pressure packages, bringing extra rushers, but at times it's just been the 3 big guys up front, sometimes with a 4th added on, being able to create pressure on their own, and that is, if you're losing against undermanned fronts in pass protection, that is an absolute backbreaker for your offense.
Birch-Jones 5 for 18. I don't think those stats tell the full tale there. He's been running for his life like Harrison Ford and the Fugitive, and 3 of those also have been bad snaps that he's had to contend with. One maybe he should have had as it kind of skipped off his hands, but just the value football, the ultimate team game, and everyone's got to do their little part correctly in order for the big plays to happen.
Well, and Birch-Jones, there are definitely defenses for his performance, but he also owns those 2 interceptions, and those were both on him, ill-advised throws both. I can understand him trying to force it at this point in the game as he goes down again there.
And this time he is sacked by Ethan Pat, and that's the second sack of the day for Mr. Pat. And that one, you know what? I think that's good defensive zone. You can credit that sack for that because he had all the time in the world. His O-line gave him lots of time. So that's the final play of the first half, and
that'll happen on your Hail Mary play at the end of the half. That's what they call a coverage sack.
Any last thoughts before we take a short break here at halftime?
No, it's going to be a tough speech at halftime for Darren Benning and the Handsworth staff. But again, like I said a little bit earlier, a few minutes ago, it's just about salvaging pride here. And who knows? Maybe the points come along with that, and they come back to make a game of this. But it's battle level. It's seeing who's just out there to compete, and whether the points come or not, you need to have some positive momentum moving forward here and be able to walk out of here holding your head high.
Big thanks to Jillian, who is your eyes on camera, bringing you some action high above in this scaffold as we're the 33rd annual Buchanan Bowl. It's a 35-0 lead for the Carson Graham Eagles. You've got it on SportsCanada.TV, and we'll be back for the third quarter. All right, welcome back as we're at the 33rd annual Buchanan Bowl, and it is Carson Graham handily in front. If you're just joining us, Warren Andrews along with Gord Randall, SportsCanada.TV. It's the game of the week, kicking off the BC High School Football Conference. And a pair of touchdowns by number 25, Darius Andrade. A touchdown by Trent Skill. Another touchdown by number 2, Kevin Pashandi. And it has been Carson Graham, not like they've dominated the game, Gord. It's really been a case of them capitalizing on some bad miscues by the Handsworth Royals in blue.
Yes, made fewer mistakes is definitely the case for Carson Graham, and took advantage of the opportunities that presented themselves to them.
And Carson Graham will start off from about their own 30-yard line. Lucas Granger, boy, he has had a very nice game. He is 8 of 10, 154 yards. Hasn't thrown for a touchdown, but he's been very instrumental in getting them there so they could run it in.
Yeah, and this offense, you saw this offensive system in all its intended glory in the first half there. A lot of easy completions for the quarterback, a lot of short to medium throws, and then when they felt like they were ready for it, they went over the top on a high percentage ball, low risk ball, up deep over the left side there, and a place where only his guy could get it or it could fall incomplete. So
Granger now, another completion, but heading on a train bound for nowhere, as the Beatles famously sang. Pass there to Kevin Bashandi.
Sean Javati doing a very good job of rallying up as the corner there, shedding the block and tracking him down in the backfield. Pardon me, he was actually the safety there.
So loss of 1 on the play. And the big boy, though, rumbling ahead. Reminiscent of William the Fridge Perry is number 99. Carson Graham. Logan Wiedner, you talked about him, the Mack truck, bowled over defender.
And unfortunately, we got some laundry on the field, although it looks like it might be offsetting personal fouls here. Guess a couple players got into it behind the play here.
Pass completed, but we'll see.
And basically what they do there on the offsetting fouls is they just bring it right back to the original line of scrimmage, and essentially it negates the play. One thing worth noting, Logan Wiedner, I've seen him reach down a couple times and massage his left hamstring. Something to maybe keep an eye on here moving forward.
Yeah, as a Team Canada rugby player, Logan Wiedner got in some time last year, one of the few returnees for this program that features a ton of grade 11s, Carson Graham, and that's got to make the coaching staff pretty darn happy when you got a team playing like this and you've got them all for another year.
Yeah, it very much does, and as I mentioned, that group of guys that's now in grade 11 were very successful at the JV level, so Carson hoping it translates and they can maybe make the leap in that aforementioned very tough Western Conference gauntlet.
2nd and 11. Play action, that one over the head of OC. One of the rare miscues for OC. And I don't know if you could really fault him on that. The pass a little high.
Yeah, a little bit off the mark from Granger there, but he's entitled to a few off the mark passes every now and then, and we'll just get right back at it here. Widener's a guy that really stood out in this game last year for me as well, and with knowing he had another year and seeing the size of him, there's got to be university programs just drooling over this kid.
Andrade with a rush of about 2 yards, we'll say, on the play. Actually, they only give him about 1. Got back to the original line of scrimmage.
Look at the size of the quads on that kid. Like, just so powerfully built.
Came at 5 rushes for 35 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Granger quickly ahead. And a nice reception there by Kevin Pashandi, and that one will move the sticks all the way ahead up to about the 48-yard line, so a gain of 18. Well, pardon me, they'll say 21 on the play. And he had 3 receptions for 93 yards, came in, it was -1 on the first one, but now he's got 5 receptions over 100 yards.
And there he is again.
And there he is heating up like a microwave here, Kevin Pashandi. Boy, lightning fast offense, giving the defense no time to rest.
And this has all been base stuff for this air raid offense. You'll see one screen look from the 3 receiver side, and then you'll see an isolated route from the 2 receiver side, and then vice versa.
So after a couple of big games, the pass a little high, looking for James Curley. The grade 12 came back from an Achilles injury suffered in week 2 last year. A big loss for Carson Graham, but their gain this year. Once again, Pashande slips around a defender, drags another 2 up ahead for 3, maybe 4 on the play.
And this is Coach Brady just running through their bread and butter stuff in this system. And you'll see every play has a similar concept. One side has some sort of a quick screen look, and the other one has a more complex route combo on the other side. All designed to be quick hitters, 3-step drop, catch, get it out of your hands, and get moving.
Pressure from Handsworth is Lucas Granger calms it down for a moment, takes a snap, heads back. Royals now looking to get into the backfield. It's Granger, though, slicing his way through. Lucas Granger all the way down to about the 3-yard line, and that was a marvelous run from the 28-yard line and a pickup of about 23 on the rush.
And the Handsworth defense looks gassed right now. It's been a real track meet approach for the Eagles on this drive, and I can see a lot of guys, heads sagging, really sucking wind out there, hands on hips, all that body language stuff that says, I am gassed right now.
It's like a scene out of Braveheart where the crowd is screaming, mercy, mercy. As Andrade into the end zone, touchdown, Carson Graham Eagles, his 3rd on the afternoon.
Merciless from the Carson Graham Eagles there. They ran the option look, and the one edge defender looked fully prepared for it for Handsworth, but again, the chase guy was not able to get over and get himself into position. And unless you have closed that gap on the pitch man to within a couple yards by the time he gets the ball, you're in trouble, and that's just too much space for a guy like Andrade.
Big Granger with the hold for the point after attempt. Jake Oseen. There's the snap. They're bringing the heat, and that one was doomed before it began, as there was a lot of heat coming from the Handsworth Royals.
And that's the second PAT that the Eagles have had trouble with today. They had one blocked earlier, and then that one, I think the reason that was a bad kick was because it would have been blocked otherwise. So something that the Carson Graham staff is going to want to focus on moving forward here as they continue in conference play. Who do they have next week, Warren? I think I saw that you'd written that down somewhere.
I did write it down, and so it will be the Royals hosting Belmont on Friday, and the Eagles visiting South Delta. Always a tough match there on Saturday.
Very much so. I got a halftime update from the Vancouver College South Delta game a few minutes ago while we were at halftime, and it is 20-18 for the Fighting Irish in that one. A little tighter game than this one, but those appear to be shaping out along with New West as the potential top teams in the conference this year. And I listed off the strong teams in the Western Conference in the first half and completely missed South Delta, who absolutely deserves to be in that conversation. And, it's tough.
Well, you look at the quarterbacks, Lucas Kirk, Michael Calvert, and now McDonald. They've just had Ben McDonald. It's been a run of fantastic pivots for South Delta.
Yeah,
big return here, Handsworth. Sorry, pardon me. All the way down inside the Carson Graham half on a great run by Sam Welter. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, special teams continue to be something that the Eagles are going to need to focus on here. Handsworth has had pretty successful returns all afternoon, and then the aforementioned PAT issues. And you were talking about Ben McDonald. Kid's an absolute stud, but if you're South Delta, there's a bit of urgency for them to make it count this year, because they've had a long, lengthy line of McDonald's going through that program that have all been stars for them, and Ben's the last of them. So they want to really maximize that. Not that they don't have talent coming up. They have a really strong-looking JV team that we have to see on Thursday. So
great program, South Delta, and I believe they'll have a game later on. As dragged down, there's a flag thrown on the play as Logan Wiedner decided to bale some hay, and unfortunately it was wearing number 16.
Yeah, and what they have done is they've expanded the definition of what a horse collar is. You no longer have to physically hook the player's collar, but if you pull them down from the back of their shirt like that, they've identified that that's just as dangerous of a play. And
now does that count as a sack, and then the penalty gets tacked on afterwards?
Well, hang on a sec. They're marching. Yeah, they are marching in the right direction. Never mind. No, because the penalty that would negate the sack there. And from the look of it, from my angle, it looked like he actually pulled him down from the middle of the back of his shirt.
He's just so strong.
Which wouldn't have been a traditional horse collar, but, and I think rightfully so, they've identified that that's as dangerous as hooking the guy's collar, so they don't want that in the game anymore either, and I understand that.
Well, Brett Burge-Jones got to feel like he's been in the ring in the WWE. He's been sacked twice, been hit numerous other times, hands the ball off Robert Lutman, and he will not go down easily, but when you've got 4 defensive linemen that probably clock in at over 800 pounds, it's hard to go anywhere.
Very much so, and you said officially 2 sacks on him and a couple more that maybe should have been sacks, so that again, that size mismatch up front proving to be quite the edge for the Carson Graham Eagles here, and back to them moving forward. South Delta is a pretty big step up for them, so they're going to have to be ready to go, especially at South Delta. Not an easy place to play at the best of times.
There's a handoff to number 31, Seb Horak. That'll be his fourth carry of the day.
I suspect that they may keep this in their back pocket, but I gotta believe that the Handsworth staff has something off of that bunch toss look to take advantage of teams overplaying that now that they've seen it so much. I'm sure they have some sort of progression for that concept. With it being 41 buzz right now, they may keep it in the back pocket, but in future, I got to believe they've got something planned to build off of that toss, because they can't just run one play out of that formation as we've seen this afternoon.
3 receivers, near side pressure coming from Carson Graham and Brett Burge-Jones. Once again, running for his life, and he has shown some real mental fortitude as he's had to shake off numerous plays that would have made a lesser quarterback blush.
Yeah, and that one was a whiff by the back for the Handsworth Royals, and people often get fixated on the offensive line proper when they're talking about pass protection, but it really does take a village, especially against a pressure defense like the Carson Graham Eagles. With that 30 front, they're going to bring a lot of linebackers from different directions, and one of the things that does, it means that you have to now rely on your running backs to be reliable in pass protection as well, and they have not been quite up to that task this afternoon for the Royals.
6 majors for Carson Graham, and there's completion to Robert Lutman. Slides around 1 tackle. He is a load to bring down. You're needing 2-3 bodies to get him to the turf.
Yeah, and Burge-Jones, can't blame him there. Took what he had, and for the Carson Graham defense, that was all about just taking away the deep stuff and forcing him to get the ball out soon enough that he couldn't get the ball up to the sticks. So he had to dump it down to a short route and rely on Lutman to do all the damage, and couldn't break enough tackles to make it to the sticks there.
3rd reception for Lutman, 25 yards, so nice average there. Not enough, though, for the first down, so a turnover on downs. And it'll be up to Lucas Granger and company. Looks one way right over the middle, finds his man. It's O'Seen for a big gain. That will be enough to move the sticks again, and another first down.
You're seeing how air raid works here as Carson spreads them out again there, and what they saw was a 3-on-2 on this near side here, and Granger smartly identified that and immediately started working that side, and sure enough had a wide open guy slanting across the middle there.
5th reception, and there's a pass right over the middle. Good defensive play there by the backup running back of the Handsworth Royals, number 31, Seb Horak, broken up that play.
And just as I say that, I wasn't a huge fan of the decision there, as he was working the side of the field that he probably wanted to work, but not looking at the guy that I liked. And it doesn't really matter. It's going to come back on a hold anyway, so.
We'll keep Lucas Granger's stats a little more intact. He's attempted 6, and he's 4 for 6 here in the second half to go with the 8 for 10 in the first half. It's amazing that a team that's an air raid team, and most of the touchdowns have come through the ground today.
Yeah, the one thing they add to that air raid is option. Again, very Oregon Ducks-like in that fashion.
Trent Skill low to the ground, will still pick up about 8 on the play.
And it's been the Darius Andrade show on the ground since about the first quarter for the Eagles, so they're getting Skill back out there involved. Again, a bit of a different look. You can see he's a much thicker and longer player than Darius Andrade is.
Granger looks off the one man, still being pursued. Throws it up onto the sidelines, and it looks like the pep squad there had good hands and couldn't reel that one in.
And Handsworth taking advantage of one of their few opportunities to actually get a body on Granger. I think they took too many liberties, though. I think this is going to be a rough in the passer call.
It was Jacob Castley that was in pursuit, number 62. But it was John Carlos Vasquez that was nailed for the penalty. I was reading about him. He's one of the two-sport athletes, I believe. Plays varsity rugby. A lot of these football players, you find them, rugby's a good second sport because, I mean, the skills are so transferable.
Skills are so transferable, and as far as high school goes, the seasons don't overlap. Rugby's a spring sport, so it's a good thing that they can do in their offseason. Another good crossover sport, there's a couple. Track and field's another good one, and wrestling is one that when I was coaching at New West, they made big use of having their guys go in the wrestling program.
So a stat, over 20 of the first rounders in the NFL draft also ran track and field. So, as you mentioned, very good second sport. And that one will be a gain for a first down on the pass to 14 as he will get his first touch.
Tyler Goose.
Gus or Goose.
There he is again.
And here he is again. Driving ahead, very close to the first down. We'll see if they mark it where his forward momentum was. Taken.
There you go, Gus.
Just racking up the yards. And you got to feel for these Handsworth Royals, short on numbers, is Ethan McCullough-Rabner, who's one of their big stars, a tight end, a defensive back. 6'1", the bigger ones. You also notice, that's another thing that you notice when you look at the rosters, the size difference, just the size of the players, not just numbers.
Yeah.
With Carson Graham, and got some maybe thicker bodies.
Yeah, they certainly do. I mean, when you've got the Handsworth front, their center's listed at 5'8". That's giving up quite a bit of size up there.
There's a pass to the end zone. Touchdown. Carson Graham, and Kevin Pachante will take it to the house.
And it'll be interesting to see when Carson Graham starts calling off the dogs here. It's a fine line. You have to stay sharp for next week's game, and you can't allow too many bad habits to creep into the game. But at the same time, as much as this is your rival, eventually you want to, even just to protect your own guys, you want to get some of the your name brand, your headliner guys off the field.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see number 52, Orly Pauriaga. I had to get the pronunciation as the kick up goes up and is good. Threw for a touchdown last week in the later stages of the game to Skill, and so we'll see if maybe he gets under center here as this game is well in hand.
I would be a massive, massive fan of seeing a guy wearing number 52 playing quarterback personally. So I really hope that happens now. I hadn't even noticed that anomaly on the
yeah, and he is the he's listed as a quarterback and linebacker, 6 foot, 195 pounds. That threw, I think, a 32-yarder to Nick Skill last week in the win.
Very interesting, yeah.
And talking to Coach Brady, in that game against Argyle, once again, it was another game where I think it was 26-0, but the score not indicative of the play. They said the whole third quarter, they never touched the ball once on offense.
Wow.
It was a bend but don't break effort for the defense on that.
I'm going to guess there might have been some defensive scores involved in that potentially.
You know what, from what I understand, no, there wasn't. I think it was all on the offense. They just let them nickel and dime their way through. It shut them down.
Fair enough.
Some punts, so. But this has been a masterful game on both sides of the ball for Carson Graham, and coaching staff have to be very proud between Puya Dorandish and John Bertelson. And of course, Coach Brady and company, they've done a fine job of getting each and every sector of their football team ready for this one to open up the season.
Out of bounds.
That kick will go out, and there's a flag flown as Lefebvre, who think it's been a bright spot for the Handsworth Royals. At times he's touched the ball, especially returning the kicks. He's looked very, very good, and you have to think against a lesser opponent could have a chance to really shine again.
Yeah, for sure. You know, as you are continuing this afternoon for the Handsworth Royals, you're just continuing to search for positives, look for individual performances, players putting in extra effort still, you know, players continuing to battle to the whistle. Those are all the things that you need to emphasize as a coach at this point in time. You cannot emphasize scoreboard. You just got to emphasize process and effort, and see which guys want to continue playing for you, because it's a good statement of character to see who's going to go out there and keep scrapping when the game is likely lost.
Absolutely. It's easy to keep your head up high when you're winning by a substantial margin. How do you feel when your back's against the wall? Brett Birch-Jones remains as the quarterback, and there's a pass. Robert Lutman, he's got a lot of room to run. He's got the first down, and he will cross the 50-yard threshold.
Yeah, and I mean, this isn't like the pros where guys are playing for jobs all across the board, but at the same time, like, you know, where you have competition for positions and things like that, like I'm keeping a sharp eye out to see who I can put into the lineup to improve. Like if we're losing by almost 50 points, you know, I got to think to myself, well, surely I can improve somewhere.
You know what? I like the toughness of Brett Birch-Jones. You can see he's laboring a little bit there on that leg after taking a couple of big hits. Stays out there, though, and there's the pitch over to Lutman. Spins off one tackle, but this tenacious front four, plus the linebacking core of the Carson Graham Eagles, will stop him in his tracks, and if there's a gain, it's very small.
Little bit of a different look there. Same type of toss play. This time they just had the one receiver on the tight edge and everybody else spread out. So trying not to give away their game plan there too much. Unfortunately for them, the Eagles snuff it out.
So he'll stay stalled at 78 yards. Go ahead, sorry.
Good mobility from the second level on that Eagles defense to get over there and contain Lutman on the edge.
So good at spinning off tackles as Lutman is. Brett Birch-Jones goes to the air. He's got the man open. Lefebvre will haul it in. And there's a pickup of 15 and a little spark that will get the crowd in blue ignited.
You know, this still means something no matter what the numbers say on the scoreboard. You can see Lefebvre, a little celebration there. That was a beautiful ball dropped right into pretty tight coverage as well. And, you know, he was pretty happy with himself making that play. But, you know, these Royals players, especially the seniors, you know, I'm sure that they want to get something on the board here more than anything else right now, and at least have something positive to take out of this. That Belmont game next week is a potentially winnable game for them, so they need to take positives out of this too.
Pressure from Carson Graham. Brett Birch-Jones once again airs it out, looking for his man, and that one intercepted as number 2, Kevin Pashanti, tries to fire up the crowd again. And it's just been one of those days for the Handsworth Royals where they have lots of positives and then they get snuffed out by an awfully big negative.
Yeah, it looked like Birch-Jones felt the pressure there. It looked like he short-armed that throw a little bit. Uncharacteristic of him to come up short, but I think that he felt the pressure around his throwing arm and short-armed his release and kind of chucked a grenade, so to speak. And unfortunately, that one blew up in his own face.
Double coverage, and that is the 3rd interception of the day for this Carson Graham Eagles defense.
And how about Kevin Pashanti? Because I think that he's picked off 2 today on top of having a couple touchdowns on offense.
These boys getting it done, both sides of the ball. There's the handoff, and it looks like Trent Skill. And this taken down twice for good measure.
Yeah, this is where this offense is just going to, I assume, is just going to run right at Handsworth and just run clock, run down the field, physically wear them down, and, you know, roll this one home, so to speak.
So 9 yards for Skill. He'll try his luck again. Slips through a tackle, slips through another one. It's Trent Skill to the races. Trent Skill being pursued down to the 30, to the 20, to the 10. He won't be stopped. Touchdown, Carson Graham Eagles. And there's a flag, though, down on the field, back at the 25-yard line.
Holding being called on the Eagles, and with this kind of score line, this is the time in the game where those flags tend to fall out of pockets a little bit easier. And again, rightfully so. Carson Graham doesn't need that score. It's a form of game control in a lot of ways.
That was a nice athletic play to watch, though, because he just slid through the offensive line and then eluded two tacklers. You could see the defender wanting to dive at him. It just didn't have the gas in the tank to get it done.
I like what they did there. That was the same type of play as the previous play. They made a slight variation on the blocking scheme. The first play was just a true zone, which is all 5 offensive linemen working towards the play side and seeing what seams create. That time they turned it into a counter, so they pulled a backside lead blocker through the hole in front of him and sent him to the same hole. Just a slight variation on what is essentially the same play.
2nd and 5, and there's the handoff. Andrade moves it ahead in what an afternoon he's had in limited use and gets the first down and change.
I'm going to guess Skill needed a bit of a breather after that last one.
Yeah, I think. 3 touchdowns for Andrade on the afternoon. And this air raid offense will park the Jets on the runway for a while, and we'll try to pound it on the ground here. A pickup of 5 on that play. Crowd's still in it. They're kind of getting at each other, and there's a toss, and absolutely nowhere to go on that play for number 14, Tyler Gus.
That was like sidearm and almost like just a little bit of a wrist flick from Granger. Almost was underarm. Handsworth kind of sniffed that one out pretty quickly there, but when you are an air raid offense, like those quick double screens on both sides, it's almost like their version of running the ball. You know it's going to be completed. It's just how far it's going to go.
3rd and about 6. Andrade now stops on a dime, and good stop there for the Handsworth Royals defense, trying to show their coaches they may be down, but they are not out. As the clock continues to tick here.
And you can take some positives out of the battle level for a number of the Royals here. There's been lapses here and there, but in general, I think effort level cannot be questioned for the Royals on this afternoon.
Granger now in the gun. 4 receiver set over to the near side, decides to punt. There's a block. Handsworth Royals. Granger will dive at it down, and if we got our first points.
Oh, there goes the shutout. It won't matter, but
it's the moral victories that count.
It won't matter, but I'm sure Coach Brady's like, really?
Well, and you know what, for Handsworth Royals, there's 1 or 2 players out there saying, you know what, I didn't quit. I blocked that punt.
Yep.
We got points on the board.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, as a coach on the winning side there, again, it doesn't change anything in anything consequential, but you're sitting there going, oh man, like really, we pitched a shutout for 47 minutes and 50 seconds, and then we have a punt block and give up a safety. Come on.
Hard to believe it feels like the 4th quarter. It's only the 3rd quarter though. We've still got.
Oh wow, it is.
12
it is
more
too.
minutes. I know it felt. I
thought they changed directions already.
I had to have a quick look and see. But you know what? These Royal fans, give them credit. They are still cheering, having a fun time against the crowd in red here. And why not? This is what high school football is all about. It's all about spirit, all about representing your school.
Yep. It's great coming up to this game and driving into the neighborhood. I pull off the highway and there's a huge group of Handsworth supporters on their way walking towards the game. I pull up outside the school. There's red and white and blue and gold clad fans everywhere. A big group of Carson Graham fans is chanting some colorful language with regards to Handsworth.
Well, you know what? If you've ever been to a Rough Riders game in Saskatchewan, you get that same feel, all the same color jerseys streaming into the stadium, and it's a fun atmosphere to be around, whether you're cheering for the team or not.
Yeah, and as long as you don't eat a Beyond Meat burger, it's an all positive experience going to those games. Did you hear about that nonsense?
I did not, but it's just making me laugh.
Well, so not to get too much into it, but A&W, I guess, put a TV commercial out there that showed Rough Riders fans eating Beyond Meat burgers to advertise their Beyond Meat burgers.
All right.
And I guess apparently the Saskatchewan Beef Growers Association decided that was the organization's fault for allowing their brand to be associated with Beyond Meat and demanded an apology from the organization, which it got. And then I heard that Tim Hortons looked at that and decided to pull Beyond Meat burgers that they sell. But, oh, yeah, it's been this whole thing.
Well, you know what? I'm not from Saskatchewan. I'm married into a Saskatchewan family. My wife's a U of S alumni. And
there you go.
The in-law, my brother-in-law drives down to every home game 4 hours each way. And
oh, yeah, coming down from Estevan and, all that kind of stuff.
I could see that. You know, he drives up from Middle Lake, which is just outside of Humboldt.
You know, there were times where it was definitely not fun if we were getting our butts kicked. But, you know, I always enjoyed playing football in Saskatchewan, both in Saskatoon at U of S and at the University of Regina. You know, you obviously walk into Mosaic Stadium, and I was fortunate enough that I played there in the last year that it was open.
Yeah.
And we were actually one of the last events in that
that's
stadium,
awesome.
actually. And, you know, you just walk in there, and it just, like, I'm like, this is my church.
This is history.
This is a cathedral.
Yep.
This is Taylor Field. You know, there's so much, it gives you the shivers.
Carson Graham now showing pressure. Brett Birch-Jones rolling out right. And this one is complete. I think he held on to it long enough. Carson Graham saying no. What do the referees say? And I think they're saying no too.
That would be correct based on my eyesight, but I'm a little biased actually. Matt Kootenay, the line judge making that call. My first youth football coach when I was 8 years old.
Such a small community, really, when you break it down, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I see him almost every week now because, you know, coaching in the same general area, and he's living in that same general area. So, yeah, I come across him a lot in his new capacity as an official.
He's going to check in a minute to see what our next game of the week is here. And
I think I'm on it again next week.
SportsCanada.TV. It'll be, I think, Jake, pardon me, it's actually the voice of the Rams, Alex Kerrigan, who will be your play-by-play man. There's the pitch ahead.
Jake's avoiding me this year, huh?
Well, Jake working hard at the World Indoor Lacrosse Championships at the Langley Event Center. So Canada trying to defend its crown there. And if you know Jake, if it's not football, it's got to be lacrosse.
I would say it's probably the other way around with Jake. If it's not lacrosse, it's got to be football. He's a lacrosse guy through and through.
Former voice of the Stealth, now branded the Warriors.
Right.
Award-winning broadcaster for lacrosse, I might add, and a good guy. Jumbo, not so jumbo anymore, shedding the pounds.
By the way, gotta love it. I just heard an announcement over the PA asking fans not to rush the field. Reminder that there is no rushing of the field. How often in high school football games are you having to hear that?
Not very often.
You might have heard it last week on this broadcast. I'm going to guess that New West may have made a similar announcement for that game, but gotta love the excitement when you even have to make an announcement like that.
Lefebvre with the 10-yard pickup and a first down for the Handsworth Royals as Brett Birch-Jones completed to him over to the near side. And you know what, credit this crowd, they're not going anywhere. I mean, in some games you see a blowout and people are trying to beat rush hour traffic, but not here. This is the event on the North Vancouver sports calendar.
Yeah, it very much is. It's the type of thing where, you know, everybody's asking at school on the Friday, like, oh, you go to the Buchanan Bowl and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, look at this Handsworth crowd. I mean, yeah, it's thinning out a little bit, but in general, they've planned their whole day around this, and their parties don't start for a couple hours yet, so.
Brett Birch-Jones took an absolute beating as he threw that ball up high, looking for number 19, Chris Wang.
You know, at what point do you need to start worrying about getting him out of this game so you have him at full strength for next week? Because he, as you've pointed out multiple times, has taken a licking this afternoon.
I feel like I'm watching a Lions game with Mike Riley just picking himself off the turf. The penalty against the Handsworth Royals. If they will go to someone else, it'll be Sam Welter, the grade 11. He's diminutive, though, 5'9", 136 pounds. Might be the JV quarterback called up. Oh, no, grade 11,
no,
I guess he wouldn't
do that. Can't do that here. If you're a grade 11, you have to be a varsity guy. It's not like the States that way.
And that's why we have you here, sir, is some pursuit there in the pass. So Robert Lutman slides around to tackle. Tried to get a little bit of block and help by number 55, Shaud Nordland, who's done it, or pardon me, number 55, Lucas Eisner.
Nice play by number 9, Mitchell Seiler. The linebacker there sniffs that out and brings down Lutman as the first tackler, which, as we've seen, is not the easiest thing to do.
No. And it's like the defender holds on to him for dear life and is like, okay, bring in some help here.
Stop, just shh.
Get the cavalry.
Just, you're okay, you're okay.
You know, if you're a fan of either team here, there have been positives, even despite the scoreline, though, to take out. Lutman looks like he's going to be a star back this year against a very good Eagles defense. Brett Birch-Jones has shown he is as tough as they come. So there's a pass completed. Nice play here by the Handsworth Royals. Slipping ahead, still on his feet. Finally dragged down after a pickup of 20 yards on the pass there to number 11, Michael Donato, who finally gets himself going.
Another Handsworth senior who wants to make sure that he can contribute in this game, and you can see the little extra effort stuff there, fighting for extra yards. And again, this Handsworth offense, they've obviously broken the goose egg now, but this Handsworth offense wanting to make good on some of their miscues in the first half there and get some offensive points on the board, because that always feels nicer than just having some points.
Last year, Donato, 8 receptions for a combined 31 yards. His first here in the regular season, as the one earlier in the day was wiped off. There's Lutman, slipping and sliding and moving and grooving all the way down inside the 20, brought down at about the 16-yard line, and a huge pickup there of 22, maybe 23 yards.
Jeez, thought you were going to start calling him a ballroom blitz there. That was moving and grooving.
Man at the back and everyone attack.
Well, that's been the strategy this afternoon for the Carson Graham Eagles, I think.
I think so, too. It has been a gang mentality, run with the wolf pack here. And the Eagles have been soaring, as we mentioned earlier. The 7 minutes, 47 seconds, and the clock not ticking. They're deciding to run it regular time here.
The dogs have officially been called off, by the way, and that, I can see Trent Skill on the sidelines. He's a two-way guy usually. Logan Widener's over there on the Carson Graham sidelines. So,
well, you got to protect. These are guys that you hope, as you mentioned, against Belmont, will be the difference makers, and they get their
South
first
Delta
win.
for them.
South Delta, pardon me.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that is a potential statement game for Carson Graham. They have always been competent and pretty good, but in a very good division that's been kind of swallowed up. And so, if they want to make a statement that they're ready to compete with the big boys, next week's their first chance. So there's a lot on the line for them next week for them to look forward to. So they've got to be smart about this. Sure, they'd love to make it as lopsided as possible today, but grand scheme of things, how much does that matter? Probably not.
Lutman moving ahead, and you know what? You'd almost love to see Handsworth, and especially Lutman, get it into the end zone. And they've been denied 4, maybe 5 times, being oh so close. And
maybe a Birch-Jones pass to Lutman so they can both get their names on it. I don't know. It feels like those guys deserve some kind of karmic payoff, no?
I think so. I absolutely agree with you here. And they're both in the backfield right now as the 3 receivers set near side, one to the far side. Brett Birch-Jones hanging in tough. Gets some pressure there, and it's intercepted once again, and he might take it all the way. It's Jake Oseen. He scored on offense. He's looking to do it on defense, and he will. And touchdown, Carson Graham, Eagles. And if it wasn't a route before, I think you can officially stamp it a route now.
I'm a little surprised some laundry didn't find its way out of a pocket there, but
there was some blocking that maybe didn't need to go on away from the play.
Well, that being said, the one that we saw late there, 42 Evan Marr went and lined up Ethan McCullough-Rabner, and McCullough-Rabner was having none of it.
And as good as this offense has been, I tell you what, I've been just equally as impressed by this defense, who's come up with a number of fumble recoveries. I think that's 4 interceptions on the day for them. And not only that, they've done such a marvelous job of locking down what could be a very good offense for the Handsworth Royals.
Yeah, what Handsworth ran into there is, and you see this from a lot of teams at a lot of levels, but that they feel like their ticket to moving the ball is the air game, and despite the fact that the running attack was working for them there, they reverted back to the air stuff because that's what they like and feel comfortable with. And it may have behooved them to just continue to feed the rock to their guy Lutman. I feel like he's the type of kid that would have willed his way into the end zone one way or another.
Well, he's a back that if you get him the ball enough times, you got 150 yards almost every game if you can get the right blocking up front. And sometimes you might not even need the blocking up front because he's been that good.
Yep.
so good at making the first man miss.
Yes, he is.
And now the clock will start to roll. Here's we're inside 6 minutes, and the Handsworth Royals now will try to keep their guests, the host here, Carson Graham Eagles, down under 60 points.
Well, I feel for the Handsworth Royals here, especially in a rivalry game. I mean, I literally was just on the other side of a 60-0 score yesterday afternoon. So,
and I see a sign from a Handsworth Royal fan saying, "Win or lose, at least we didn't have to go to Carson."
Yeah, there is no love lost between the fans here either.
Absolutely not. Well, you know what? I think maybe it's turned from cheering on the game to maybe flirting with the opposite sex there at about halftime.
Yeah.
That becomes the
making
pursuit.
sure that you drown out the other side. I've seen a couple chant battles, that kind of stuff. It's been.
I love it.
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's been largely clean and haven't seen any major incidents, which is good. I know that there are administrators from both schools here and
security I've seen out front too. And
yeah, so
there's little kids here. You don't want it to be an episode of Trailer Park Boys, right?
There's the Handsworth administrative team you can see right down there.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And it hasn't been an overly dirty game. There have been penalties, but it hasn't been tons of stuff after the plays. There's the kick, and this one returned by number 19, Chris Wang. Nice return there, and that's been a bright spot for the Handsworth Royals, the return game.
And one thing of note as the North Shore weather starts to blow in here, this game's been sunny for most of the day. I mean, that's a 5-alarm day up here on the North Shore when you don't have any showers.
Well, you were saying, I think it was a bit of a wet one last year when you and Jake were covering this game.
At times, again, pretty typical North Shore day. Like, we had a few squalls, and it was kind of in and out for most of the afternoon. So it's been a really nice one here this afternoon. Beautiful day for a ball game.
Much closer game from what I understand. What was it, 32-16, I think?
That sounds right. And Handsworth had their game-breaking talent last year in Keelan White. And he was actually pretty banged up in that game, but that was another game where Handsworth just shot themselves in the foot early on. Looked like they had a chance, but they just couldn't get out of their own way, made some pretty critical mistakes that Carson Graham took full advantage of, and unfortunately for them, that script has kind of repeated itself today.
Well, Luttman will remain out there, and he'll charge ahead for a gain 3, maybe 4 on the play. Been very impressed, though, as I mentioned earlier, with the game of Robert Luttman. And when you've got that really good running back to build on, it can really help your program if there's deficiencies in other areas.
It can. I was having this conversation with a coaching colleague of mine the other day, and I strongly believe this. The old adage is that you have to establish the run, and that's really the key to an offensive attack and all that kind of stuff. And my philosophy has been that your rushing attack sets the floor, your passing attack sets the ceiling. Your rushing attack can make sure that you are constantly competent, but without an effective passing attack, you're limited.
Brett Birch-Jones down to Justin Lefebvre. He'll make his way to the 49-yard line, and that's a big pickup of about 20 yards on the play.
And hey, I say that as a guy that coached at New West, and if you've ever seen them play football, that is as rushing-based of an attack as you will get. We run the ball about 80% of the time there.
And different looks,
their
lots of
offensive
deception.
coordinator would say that that's 60%. But, yeah, about 80% of the time we ran the ball there. And but when we were at our best was when we were able to supplement that with an effective passing attack. It doesn't have to be like these offenses where the run is predicated off the pass. It's the other way around. We're not creating offense with the pass. We're taking advantage of the stuff that we've created by being able to run the ball, but we still had to be able to pass it effectively to really be at our best.
So the next game is going to be Mount Doug against Vancouver College, and that is on the 28th to 1:30 once again, the kickoff. That'll be a good game.
Yeah, at Bishop O'Hagan Field in the west side of Vancouver there, and nice to go into the city to one of the more storied football schools in this entire province, if not the most storied football school in this entire province. And interesting, actually, that's you were talking about the BC Lions earlier. That's where recently deposed offensive line coach Brian Chu is now coaching. Of course,
really?
the Vancouver College alumnus himself.
Yes.
The rich get richer, as they often do.
I mean, look at his time with the very good Montreal Alouettes team. And the guy knows, maybe he didn't have success here in BC, but the guy knows how to win. A great defense there, and this time it's number 5, Adam Usher. 5'10", 160-pound, grade 11, breaking up that play at the last moment, showing some good jump.
Yeah, one of my favorite players for a long time, Brian Chu. But, you know, I got into a few back and forths about this when the firing came down, and I said, look, like, when you've cycled that many players in and out of the offensive line rotation and it's never worked, at some point in time, like, the accountability has to be on the coach to get the most out of his players. And yeah. I mean, I don't think that's any statement against Brian Chu personally. It just didn't work out.
Well, now it looks like they've really turned things around, and Riley's upright a lot more, and they're looking a lot better.
Look at it this way. They gave the game ball to Kelly Bates their first game afterwards.
Yeah.
Who was the offensive line coach that replaced him. So, I mean, if that's how the players feel, then clearly for whatever reason, we can point fingers wherever, but for whatever reason, it just wasn't working out.
Sometimes
and it was better to divorce and move on.
Maybe, sometimes it's just not the right fit, and it doesn't mean you're the wrong person. It just means the fit wasn't right.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm sure that I'm sure he's frustrated, but I'm sure there's a small part of him that's enjoying having an excuse to just go back and coach at his old high school and not
pretty good program,
not a low
too.
Pressure environment, but it may certainly a lower pressure environment. And hey, it's been a long time since that program's gotten over the top, despite consistently being part of the cream of the crop.
Brett Birch-Jones throws it up high, and I thought we were going to have another interception. And he is down on the turf again. And
mercy.
It's like Valentine's Day for him. He's been kissing that turf so much.
Get him out of there.
But you know what? You love to see
exactly what they're doing, actually.
How mentally tough this kid is. You know what? He has faced adversity. He stared the lion down right in the mouth, and he doesn't want to quit. He doesn't care what the score line is. He's got pride. He's got pride for this program. The crowd kind of gets going, and the music gets going, and that's the end of the fourth quarter. And 55-0 or 55-2, pardon me, and I don't know if coming into this game we would have predicted the score line, Gord.
No, I wouldn't have predicted something as lopsided as this. A tough afternoon all told for the Handsworth Royals. You can see their offensive team huddling there at midfield, just kind of checking in with each other and saying, hey, we got to go back to battle next week, and this isn't over and all that kind of stuff. And with a coaching staff moving up primarily from the JV level to the varsity level for the first time this year, not the way they wanted things to go, but there's certainly some potential there. They're going to have to polish up details and clean it up. Good news for them is, Belmont for them next week is they're not one of the top dogs in the conference. Not to say they're not a good team, but they were provincial finalists at JV last year. But they're not jumping immediately to the top of the heap. So maybe they can get back at it and battle again next week. They certainly have to be able to go into that game believing that they're going to be able to win that game. So, the bounce back time it's amazing. It's a full week between games, but it's amazing how quick that time goes by when you're trying to bounce back from a bad one, and all of a sudden it's the next game. You're like, where did the week go?
Well, you know what? I don't get an official vote, so this is just me talking. But despite 3 touchdowns from Darius Andrade, I would say number 18, Jake Oseen, for me, is the player of the game for what he did on both sides of the ball. Your thoughts?
My vote would go to number 2, Kevin Pashandy. Multiple interceptions for him, multiple touchdowns for him on offense, and was just a guy that was all over the field. There's some really good athletes on that Carson Graham team. I think Oseen is not a bad choice either. And Lucas Granger had a very good game for them. Andrade was good. Trent Skill was good. On the defensive side of the ball, that defensive front was excellent. It was truly a full team effort. I think they won on all 3 levels, the Carson Graham Eagles this afternoon. So,
well, big thank you to Jillian manning the camera here up high on the scaffold. A big thank you to the North Shore football community for having us on board. For Gord Randall, by the way, where can people follow you on social media?
I'm mostly active on Twitter. You can follow me at GA Randall. Crown Gridiron Nation airs Wednesdays at, I believe it's noon Pacific time on TSN 1. And then various repeats for the days following until the Saturday of College Football Saturday. That is every week. And if you want to come out to Cloverdale Athletic Park, we play our home games out of there, the Sullivan Heights Stars.
Best of luck to you the rest of the season.
Thanks,
I'm
sir.
Warren Andrews. You can find me at @some_sports guy as we head downfield here for just a moment.